Aloha and good morning from the beautiful Great Basin National Park in Nevada. How is our wonderful Starseed family? Pear and I send you all love and blessings.
Good morning, everyone. Aloha. We are so happy that you can join us for another awesome webinar. We are staying at the charming Hidden Canyon Retreat. As its name says, this is a retreat magically hidden within a canyon. It is set along a river and is a lovely, quiet, peaceful and secluded oasis in the middle of the basin. The scenery is gorgeous and the amenities abundant. Our room is big, clean and comfortable. It has everything you need. Bring food, as there is no place to shop in Baker. The staff provide outstanding customer service. The stargazing is spectacular here.
Today we're going to talk about knowing your existential truth. I hope you've had a good week and are doing everything you want to do in this life of yours as things start to change and grow in new directions for you as Starseeds. We're so happy to be able to share this information with you, and it seems to come from not only Pear or my own experience, but many things that are surfacing about seeds in general, and how you can oscillate yourself in new directions that are more beautiful, and it is the time of your life to flower. And existential truth has many meanings. Truth is a foundry, and you're all receiving new foundries from the work that we did on assemblage points for castanedated dreaming. And you're receiving keys and motions that can take you in different places that you've never known or seen or been before. In existential truth, it is very much a mindset-oriented topic. So the truth itself adjusts to your mindset. Most of you are Vispa and Vespa that flower in your cortex, and some of you are Dosa and Dasa, which is a very peaceful mindset. And wherever you are, the existential truth adjusts to your cortex or your mind. And so today we're putting in an adjustment mechanism, because not all dreams necessarily cater to your particular mindset in existential thinking. Some of it even caters to alpha-beta thinking and tries to put people in beta or positive mindset, and that would scorch your mind if that went off. Those in universities don't always know the difference, but many are alpha-beta. They get into beta and they think positive, and they think true, and they want to go forward, and they want to have a good time, and they want to be beautiful, and all these things that are true to existential thinking. There was another group named Forum that Asur'Ana worked with a long time ago in her psychic days, which had an existential truth about everything is possible, that you can dream anything you want. It was a very amazing set of workshops that were very intense, with people sharing of trauma and drama and everything you could imagine. They would call anything that interferes with what you want to dream a racket. They would say to you, "Well, what do you get out of that play? What are you getting out of the racket that you can't give up the racket so you can have what you want. And there were stories that were funny. There was this one guy that was like an oceanic research scientist, and he realized that the whole reasoning that he became that was because his mother flushed a guppy down the toilet when he was age 6. He wanted to save the fish, and he realized that was a racket too. And if he wanted to expand, he needed to get over it. So rackets are founded on something that happened that traumatized you somewhere in time and gives you an opportunity to say, "Oh well, oh poor little me, I can't get over it. I'll never get over it. I can never have what I want. I can never do what I say. I can never be anything more than I think I am." So that's what Forum called a racket. Well, obviously, in existential thinking, the concept of racket isn't new, and a racket is a trip up in self-realization. It's something that trips you up. There were other stories too, and they talked about payoffs. What's your payoff for being negative if you're a negative person and sit there and lament your condition in life? What's the payoff for being in a position where it doesn't work out and you get to gripe about it? And people listen to your gripes and probably get tired of it after a time. What's your payoff when you gripe? Well, often people heal you, so you get healed as you gripe, and that can be true even in small sequences where you go, "This isn't working out. The toilet didn't flush this morning. My blow dryer blew out, and I'm here with wet hair. My outfit didn't get pressed right, or I'm late to the meeting because of traffic." Or whatever it is that's going on in your life that seems a little negative. And that can be a part of a racket too. So what is your payoff for complaining, judging, feeling unwell, being a little snit at somebody, or doing something else that isn't perhaps joyful or beautiful or honorable or truthful for others to experience and dance with? So be positive. And Asur'Ana and Pair are always that way when they go out. They always tell the waitress she's beautiful, or the waiter that he's wonderful, or the food is absolutely delightful, even if it wasn't really what their body needed. But whatever it is, if you desire to please and love and care for people, they respond in a positive way. But if you sit there in your negativity and complain, then people respond either negatively, or they avoid you, or they just simply leave. And leaving isn't just about, "I'm your waitress and I have to take the order, and she may be short with you." It's that they leave their bodies. See? Seeds want people present in their bodies, and people can't be present unless you express honor, love, care, and a positive stature of existence, okay? So there's a need to be positive with others, and when you are, then they get in their bodies, and then they're present with you, and they're more of a delight to be around. If you're negative, they leave their bodies, and they don't want to see you much because it hurts them somehow when they leave their bodies. They don't understand what it is about the negativity or the judgment or the sick play of whatever is happening in someone's life that just makes it kind of a way to be in pain. And in the pain they leave their bodies. And that's true for most in the oligarchy society. Some are so disconnected they never get in, and that may be for as much as a third of the population. They never get in their bodies to be present, see? You too may go out of body when you're bored, or you're despondent about life, or life doesn't feel like it's working out, or life isn't feeling like it's in the truth of you. And when you go out of body, it numbs the nerves. So the desire to be in the body and present is first and foremost to express your truth. So you may want to look at what do you think about that causes you to go out of body. In Shatar days, it's like you look at people and you go, knock, knock, is anybody in there? Is anybody home? What's going on for you that you're so non-present? And so Asur'Ana quotes them with glamour and says, you're really beautiful. And then they get in, and then they can be present. Now take a breath in and out and get fully into your toes, please. It's not just down to the neck, it's not just down to the hips, it's not just down to the knees. Get all the way in and be present with us for this webinar about your truth. Learn to live this way because when you're in your body, you feel well. Now, if you're not feeling well in this moment, as you get in your body, there's something you need to rotate out of your dream and or out of your world. So let's flip the revolving door of your existential realities to align one that sits in your truth, which feels good for you to repose in as a star seed at home within your body. Now we've talked about the sea around you and all your archives and all your books and all these gates to visit angels or Dao and Tao. And now you have, if you watched the last webinar of opportunities to sell and soar with different facets of realities that can help you mend or heal or find your truth, or find forgiveness or find compassion within you. When you soar, you should still be in your body and not out of body, flying around someplace, because that doesn't really work for the field or the form or transfusion. So if you think of it in retrospect to the last webinar, you want to be in your body when you fly, and that doesn't make sense. Some people like to disengage and fly up into the mid-heaven and then go to sleep, because when you fly out of the body, you go to sleep, and then you can't be present for the webinar. So next time you listen to any of these webinars that you may choose to re-listen to, remember to get all the way into your toes and see if that helps you stay awake and present. And even if you close your eyes, you can still be all the way in your body and present in your toes. That's important when we go into meditation time. You want to be aware and lucid and awake at what you're envisioning and not asleep, so you can know yourself better and know what Spirit's trying to communicate. You received a new Tao habitat over the course of this week, and we're going to engage it now if it hasn't already engaged. It's a wonderful Tao habitat that comes from the seed system, because the Tao habitat of humanity is not really good for you as a seed. It has a different mission in it and is trying to upset a nuclear extinction. And I won't lie about that ever. They're trying to render that dream of planet and all the other kinds of things, and we don't know how it will play out, to be honest with you. But they are trying very hard to upset their own need to annihilate themselves as a human race. In truth, they already tried it in World War II, and in theory it caused a lot of upheaval on the planet. They already went through that once, and it wasn't that long ago, and that should be enough, but we really don't know, okay? So we're going to say to you that radiation has a big effect if it ever accumulates enough on the planet. It will kick people so far out of body they can never find the body again, and it will make them very sick and nauseous in the end if they're exposed to too much radiation. And we're just going to say to you as a seed, if that happens, it's time to fast and go and not wait around for anything else. We bless you with that recollection if that accrues, as we love you too much to leave you behind in a society that is going to mold itself to its extinction, which is a very sad thing to happen. We hope it doesn't, but if you have children, take them with you because you love them too much to leave them behind. Asur'Ana witnessed this amazing unfolding of a group of ethereals, and I think she spoke of it in the last webinar or two ago, that had discharged from a place that had gases that made their lungs ill, and they discharged as a clan of about 100. They had their kids go first, fast, and go home to their Tao, and then they went after as adults. Somehow they were hypercharged and finally released from one another, but they were so beautiful in their light garbs. It was unbelievable to witness, and so loving and caring, even with their ethereal children that were still there with them. So love your children and be present for them all the way in your body. Get them in their bodies. If there is strife, tell them to take a deep breath and get into their toes, and let go of whatever the problem is by rotating their dream, and especially if they're a sea child, and let it go to the winds of time, because nothing matters more than love. The only thing that really ever exists is love, and is the foundation of all existences. It's the foundation of all life, and this poor society has forgotten that and tried to substitute money and entertainment for love, and it doesn't work, and don't fall prey to that. Find things that make you feel loved in life, whether it's a walk out in nature, a trip to the sea, a journey out into a national park, or being with the people that you care for. Do what makes you feel loved and nothing else, and your body will mend of anything that ails it, and you will never be ill up until the moment you take your last breath. Love is the pivotal, centrifugal force through which existential truth unfolds. So let's open our heart space today and love and bless and care and sway to the divine percolation of the love of the two of you. This is the love of you for you, the love of the male-female side of you that needs to hold hands now inside you and kiss each other on the lips, knowing that the male and female of you are in its truth to stand side by side in the love and the care and the sway and the power and the truth of yourself, in the wholeness of yourself. Now here's an area that you can heavily deprogram through time if you witness your inner male and female not kissing, or their backs are turned to one another, or one's missing, or they're having a fight, or whatever is happening inside to yourself. Go take out the negative male or female programming in your molecular structure. There's no need to have an internal war, and there's many problems that occur when there's an internal war. In the Ascension Insight series, we did talk about this extensively in the workbooks that the Earth Consciousness came up with for people to look at where they are not well in themselves and choose to change it. Most of you may have worked with the two workbooks. Please refer to Mother Earth's Complete Ascension Workbook 1 and Mother Earth's Complete Ascension Workbook 2 for more information. There wasn't a lot of deprogramming available through those workbooks, and I'll tell you why. This society doesn't release programming very well. Seeds do, but they don't. There are people that could get confused releasing programmings that identify them as to who they are, even if they're negative. So in this system of light, that's very difficult because they have negative programming and they create negative airstream in their lives. Sometimes it actions in a very sick experience with people, or at work, or at home, or in some other place that they don't understand. And you can't really help that as a starseed. They have negative programming, but you can release yours. And looking at your male and female inside is one good way to gauge how well you're in harmony in you. And it can change from day to day as you hit other program strings that cause you to be disharmonious in you, and recognizing that your male is missing and your female is feeling lost, or your inner female is feeling angry and wants to slap his face, or whatever is going on internal to you and your own male and female bandwidth in choosing to let the programming go. It makes room for you to heal you into greater wholeness. Now, Asur'Ana used that modality to cause pain to show up in her life because she was a very male female that had learned to be very masculine to succeed at work, and there was no room for a real man in her life. And for years, she kept focusing every day on the male-female side of herself and taking out the programming that didn't allow her to have a balanced union. It took a long time to invert her from being masculine to being in the feminine force of herself, and then she had to address all the feminine weaknesses and overcome them by choosing to be a medicine woman of herself. And so that is true for each of you that is searching for partnership. As you look at your male and female, you have to keep clearing what doesn't allow you to be there if you're female in your feminine medicine woman world. And you want a man who's really there for you in his masculine world. And Per was so male. He was a man of himself, and he always has been. Some men are like that, and some are effeminate, that don't seem to understand anything because they don't know how to dream for themselves or do anything else. They couldn't manifest much or were weak in some way. And Asur'Ana didn't want that because it didn't really help her in her play at all. She wanted a strong man like Per. Therefore, she reversed into the strong medicine woman, and then the strong medicine man Per showed up. If you're a male that needs to become the medicine man of yourself, then that's a project for you to think about too, okay? There are many things that a weak male or female does in the dreaming of your truth. A weak male means you can't dream stream very well, so weaker male means that it's hard for you to maybe be abundant or create everything that you need in this world of yours. A weak male can also mean you have a hard time voicing your truth or speaking what's going on for you because it's the male side of ourselves, the actions language. So if you have either of those problems or have had in the past, then that's a sign of a weak inner male. A weak inner male is the one that feels in the dreams with joy. So the weak inner female causes you not to have a fuller life because you don't have all the little nuances present to make your world wonderful as you dream stream through your week. As you strengthen the inner female into the medicine woman of yourself, suddenly the dreams fill out and you find yourself doing something else in your life that you really enjoy, such as perhaps going to a yoga class or getting to the ocean or doing something that really feels superlative to the body that you live within, or maybe it's new clothes or a fine meal or cooking something amazing or something that's very wonderful. Whether you're a man or a woman, it doesn't matter. Then there's the interplay between the two. The masculine is the one that charges forward with your dream stream to cause change. So if you're having problems making change in your life, you probably have a weak male. He also charges forward to cause things to happen, like to find a new job, or let go of an old job, or move to a new region, or make any other kind of centrifugal change you might need to. including charging up to go to a church and find spiritual friends in your life, or whatever it is that you really are needing to do to change something inside you that makes your world more wonderful. And so that's the one role of the inner male also. And wherever it's weak, it will show in your life in some way that we are trying to explain, because then you're in a non-truth. You're in a non-existential truth to not be full, or not be whole, or not have the job that works for you, or not have the dreams that work for you, or not have a partner that works for you, or not be well with your children, or you could line it up in a million ways, in ways that your life doesn't seem to work for you. So it's the inner male that gauges it and moves it forward in a way that it can change to be better for you in your life, to do everything that you're here to do. And that's how we would define the inner male and female. We'll call it an alliance. In the truth of you, the male and female have to be in an alliance, stands within you. And in the Ascension Insight series theory, we broke it down to inner male and female teenagers and children that perhaps has strived through time. In the strife, some part of you broke up, some part of your female broke up through time in the strife of your childhood or teenage years, or any other experience and adulthood that was traumatic, and you fractured and you fragmented, and in that you lose a part of your inner female or male, or whatever was in action in the moment of that trauma. Sometimes the whole inner male or female can be killed off before your age 9 in rudimentary problems with a parent that doesn't like the fact that you're female or male in gender. They may kill your inner male or kill your inner female before you ever enter high school. For starseeds, most begin to reverse by age 13 to fill in their inner male or female if it was killed off by a parent that was disgruntled with you in some way. Some of you don't have that experience, but some of you do. In your teenage years, you should have inversed and retrieved your inner male or female and put it back together, and then as you became a young adult, as you sailed up into the university system or wherever you went with your life, you were more whole to address life ahead. Sometimes in life, the whole male or female can be killed off by a bad partnership or a sick encounter with a sexual nature that the person just has a real amazing hatred of the inner female or male of everyone, and they can kill it off in the bad sack of you. She's usually reversed through that and retrieve the male and female that they lose and start to piece it back together again. Because in the theory of a seed is you're always to be whole. But as you examine your life, if there's places that ruptured and you never retrieved all parts of you, we offer you an opportunity to do so now with the new Tao instrument that's coming to be with you. That you retrieve all your pieces from age 0 to 6 and 7 to 11 and 12 to 18 and then your adult years, okay? That will help some of you that may be in your own way. You never worked on this, or you never picked up all the fractionated pieces of yourself, or you always relied on the male side of you to do everything and not the female side, or you've always relied on the female side to be whatever she was and don't have much of an inner male, however it may play out for you. Now the feminine side is very loving and compassionate and relies on emotions, and the male side is very verbal and responds to knowing or the mind. So one is heart and one is mind. And in realization, you want to be in both the heart and the mind as you think and operate through your life. It took Asur'Ana and Pair a long time to integrate their heart and their mind in a way that worked for realization stanzas of understanding, because they both had big heart space and needed to develop their mind. If you've gone through a major calamity of a loss of partnership that was very heart-wrenching, then you can look at that and choose today to piece your heart back together so you can begin to sequence something new in this life of yours. If it's something else you lost, a job you love, the place you lived, people you knew that were good friends, and suddenly they were through, or whatever happened, is a good opportunity to pick up your heart today and put it back together for the inner feminine of you. If you've had a mental disturbance of some sort because you felt like you lost your mind or your mind doesn't function very well, then it's time to piece back together the fragmentation of your inner male so your mind and heart can learn to syncopate together, because existential truth requires both the heart and the mind. It requires the heart to feel and the mind to know, and then the truth of you can flow, and that requires healing work in the interior of you to foster. I can't explain it any other way. You've worked on many things, maybe even through the Ascension Insight series theory of existence, but it's time to do it again in light, because that was sound and this is light, and it's another level of healing work that may parallel in some ways or get to the root cause of why you fractionated at any time in this life of yours. Fractionation tends to repeat in light, so you fractionated once and now you fractionate again in a similar occurrence that suddenly shows up and breaks your heart or breaks your mind again. In order to offset that, you have to pick up your pieces and grow whole. Then check your inner male and female and look at where they're not in alignment, and work on the issues behind why they're not in alignment, and forgive them and let the programming go to the winds of time and grow in a different direction. So we'll talk a little bit about how programming works. It's a fundamental emotional charge, and that's all. So let's say your mother slapped you when you were a kid and you bawled your eyes out all night because of something she said that was like a whiplash of your spirit. And Anytime anybody yells, now you cringe and you go into that part that fractionates. Let's say now you have an emotionally disturbed boss and he yells, then you fractionate every time he yells. You don't know what to do about it, and you hit that part that says, I can't stand anger in people. It just hurts too much. And that's the emotional charge. So you go back in time and you pick up the pieces that were there when your mom slapped you and any other time someone yelled, and you release the discharge, and you release and discharge the program that says you're disgruntled when people are upset or angry, and then all of a sudden don't have a charge anymore. So that's how it works. Looking at the fundamental emotional charge means you look at you. How do you feel? What's upsetting you, and what's the undercurrent of issue of emotion that's there that's upsetting you? Then go about taking it apart and taking it out until there is no charge, and a part of you that was fragmented suddenly grows whole or integrates. It's hard to explain. It's just a fundamental truth that you're like a walking computer that's emotionally charged through time. And some charges are happy, so you get into those charges and you have a great day. If you get into the negative ones, you think, this is not a day of my heart today at all. Asur'Ana was driving around looking for this vegan restaurant about a month ago, and it turned out to be a very poor and sick part of Mesa that she had never been to before, and so she was disgruntled in not finding it. It had a beautiful menu online and disgruntled at calling them when they just hung up on her 3 times. She decided she couldn't have been in that part of town and went somewhere else. And her Tao said to her at the time, your dream is really fragmented today. Put it back together and it will turn out okay. So she released her charge, put her dream back together, and went to a beautiful restaurant she loves and had a nice salad because she's back on a lot of greens now that her abdomen has grown into another position of a yogi belly. She has a yogi belly, but that has a gas bag in it, and she never feels hungry ever. So when we feed her, it is to balance her mind and not usually anything else. And she wouldn't really care to eat anyway, sometimes. But anyway, and what will tell you about all of this is that the faster you can release your charge, the more rapidly your existential truth reemerges and your dream changes, and suddenly you're up in a new, beautiful direction instead of the disgruntled motions or emotions that you're feeling inside because of whatever is occurring in your life. You can't even begin to imagine what that means to be able to just turn around from a very disgruntled moment and flip it around and then go have a peaceful meal, and that's Asur'Ana because she understands it. Somewhere in my world causes this weird experience of trying to find this restaurant and being upset about it. So we say to you that whatever upsets you, sometimes is not infinitesimally having anything to do with what's actually occurring in your life, and for yogis, that's true. Finding a restaurant is not really a big deal for anything, and yet there's something else disturbing Asur'Ana that she's working on in the undercurrent of herself, and as she sat at dinner and had her salad, she could listen to what that was and forgive it and release it. And so it works for each of us. Her inner male and female are highly bonded. So the goal of alliance is that you bond. You do a heart bond. And if your inner male and female can heart bond, then you can bond to the people you love and care and sway and experience the glory of a romantic day. Even if it's just a friend you love, or another partner you're meeting, or the one that you've been with for a long time. You can sway into that bond and love each other in a new way that's really ingratiating and really beautiful to everything you do. In partnership too, for those of you aspiring in that direction or who are in partnership, you have to understand that your bonds don't recede, but there's times that your inner male or female has a problem with their inner male and female. If you can understand that, you can go work on it in you and come to peace with it, and then it will straighten out in them too. And that occurs whether they're aware or not, because programming triggers programming in each other. It's a figure 8 loop, and when you discharge your size of the loop, the other one folds, and then the program disengages in the other person too. As Asur'Ana learned this with Pear, she was so good at it he never had a bad day with her. She just wiped it out and keep it in balance, and then he discharged his, and then their beautiful union continues to this day. So the more rapid you are at discharging your negative programming with your spouse or your children, then the more quickly you recover and have a better day together. Children are very responsive to your programming too. They'll have a tendency to perhaps fractionate as you hit fractionating programming in their age bandwidth. It's like kids trigger you in different ages, okay? And you heal along with them, or you fractionate them, or you both fractionate. It's very sad when parents aren't aware enough to heal with their kids, because if they do, then they grow in different directions and mature as an adult in another way that's really beautiful. One initiate, Chris, healed through his 3 children. He loved his daughter, who was his twin, more than anything, and his twin partner, Cindy, reminded him of her. Not in appearance, but the feeling in his heart, and that's why he went to her. So Chris healed something big in his relationship with Cindy. His daughter was about 14 when Chris divorced his wife and left to be with Cindy. Oddly enough, Chris never saw his daughter again, but it was that way. It's like that with twins sometimes. You can only have one, so Chris couldn't have his daughter and Cindy as a partner. But whatever it is, that daughter helped him heal something big in his heart in preparation for meeting his twin partner. If you're with a twin child, you probably won't be with a twin partner unless you're a very unusual case of a twin familyscape. And there are occasional seeds that generate that, and that's very, very beautiful to have done, but it's very, very rare. Now, we want to talk to you today about how to navigate your existential truth. So the first way is to look at the condition of your inner male and female, because if you harmonize it by letting go of the negativity that's going on in either side of you towards the other, then the truth will start to flourish or come forward in an existential clause of a star seed that says, I'll be in my truth when I'm in harmony inside myself. As you clear life disturbances as they unfold day to day, or whatever you're clearing from the past, your truth can flower more graciously in this life of yours. But there's a second way to look at your truth, and that's from the objective of what is it? What is my existential truth? There are 12 truths, and we're just going to go through them very quickly. You can muscle test or feel in your body kinesthetically what's so for you. It's not really anything other than a kinesthetic knowing that muscle testing is anyway, because it just says, yeah, that's true, or no, that's not. So there's the truth of being one who cares, of being one who caters to others. That you cater to others, which is an odd truth for seeds in this society, because people get used when you get catered to others too much, and that may lead to a sense of being used in some timeline of your life. In another society, catering to others is someone who's in service to the whole. So they'll do something that the whole is in need of, like create a restaurant if the community wants a place to dine out, or create a dance forum if people want to dance, or create some other creative project that everybody wants because you're in service to the whole. In this society, service to the whole is not really an adamant of life. It's just a very strange society in which everybody is in self-service. They do what they want, and they don't really think about anyone else or any group of people or anything much really and truly inside themselves. The second truth is about being a foundry for others. Now you know from assemblage points that foundries cause passion. It causes life change. It causes things to surface or grow or move. Foundry people cause change sometimes in others around them because you just can't help it, because you're there in the foundry and you change it or shift directions for the whole, and then suddenly it motions in another direction. Often foundry people are self-employed because you know how to navigate the foundry of others to grow in particular directions. Both Asur'Ana and Pair are a foundry truth. That's why they are directors of their Dreamtime Ascension School, or DAS. Per is also the founder and CEO of his sustainable and ethical organic coffee and tea company in Norway. If you're not a foundry truth, having your own organization is not for you. You're better off working for others or with others because you won't know how to navigate it into success. Now, sometimes people create a career, say multi-level marketing such as Asur'Ana, that beautiful substance that renews or revives. And non-foundry people can do well in multi-marketing schemata if they're aggressive and assertive and like to push people to buy the product or try new things. That's what we would say about anything that's self-driven, is you have to be willing to push your ideas on others. The third existential truth is somebody who blossoms in new concepts or blossoms in new awareness and then strives to share their awareness or share their truth or share their understanding with others. Often, they make great teachers or leaders of some sort in a community or in the church, if not at work or in the family. They may be very gifted at guiding the children to do new and interesting things that are helpful to them. So that's sort of a leadership role of some modality. The fourth is about educating others, which is to show them what's working or what's not working or how they might make it work better. Work can also express itself in the education system. In this society where you become a professor or a teacher or something related to that force or focus. The existential truth are all forces, really. And if you're in it, it feels right. And if it isn't, it isn't. And if it isn't, you should find the occupation that aligns with your existential truth. You see? The fifth existential truth is about nurturing. It's about parenting. Could be about nursing. Could be about working with old people or working with young children that need to be loved. If you're a nurturing sort, then that's the occupation that may work out best for you in your own life system. But sometimes people need to be nurtured or work or someplace else. And if you're that nurturing character, then you apply it wherever you are and people like it. So that's the existential truth of nurturing others. In this society, if you feel used, sometimes it's a one-way street when you nurture, and nothing gives back to you, and that's sometimes painful to the heart accolade. So in this particular truth, and given the nature of the society, there's a need to find balance and nurture yourself more, maybe if you're feeling empty or lost in whatever's happened to you. The sixth existential truth is about navigating realities. This is someone that might be very gifted as a professor, helping students find their reality within their lives, or a counselor of some sort that helps people find a reality that they can live or deal with that works for them through time, and give up realities that don't do well for them at all. Many in this category of navigating realities are very gifted counselors or coaches and beautiful at helping people find their truth and move in new directions that are wiser or better for their own lives. The seventh existential truth is about purpose. This can also be a gifted counselor, but it can also be gifted in many ways in relation to finding the purpose, say, of a department in a corporation to fulfill upon what the corporation needs, or purposeful with your family, like where do we need to go and grow so we can be more whole and have a better time together, or purposeful in a mission of being with a spouse and being present and really knowing and touching and holding one another in beautiful ways. So that's the purposeful mission of an existential truth. It can be applied in many directions that are useful to any kind of career or any kind of partnership, but it requires the right partnership, probably to fulfill upon a person who can be there and be present and ready to listen. The eighth existential truth is about partnership. Sometimes these people grow to be partnership coaches or counselors of partnership or family dynamics. Sometimes they grow well in life if they create a beautiful partnership for a good length or duration of their own existence. They're just very knowing about male and female dynamics and what works and what doesn't work. This society does examine some of that, but the tendency is to understand things that are probably grander than what most in the society would understand. If you present those concepts that might accord to a book that's popular, or website that's popular, or someone who's a relationship coach that could grow popular, or sometimes they just put their interest in their own partnership. And that's all, and that's okay too, because in the limited society that you live in, often this is all you can get out of it, which is sad in a way. So if you're in that category, try to expand more into what that means in your life and what new direction you might take with that knowledge. Each of these have huge knowledge banks of books, and as you figure out your existential truth, that book will flutter open to allow you to know more about who you are and the real direction of yourself as a star seed. Now, the ninth direction of truth is about spiritual cause. Often, these people strive to be a healer or a minister or get involved with massage or acupuncture doctrine of some sort, but it really has a spiritual undercurrent and not necessarily a medicinal one. So there's two categories. The 10th truth is about physical doctrine. This is the 9th, which is about spiritual doctrine. So spiritual doctrine and physical doctrine can sometimes overlap, but it leads to careers of that nature. So if you're a spiritual person and seek to become a minister, even if you do it on the side of another career, that could be very fulfilling in this ninth category. In the 10th category, doctrine or medicinals would be of a major interest in a major book of information is there for that too. And even if you can't have such a career, you could still study naturopathy or study herbs or study things that are interesting to you and bring that to the forefront of extending your life or helping others extend their lives too. So if you're in that 10th category, your main interest may be in food and nutrients, and I would say go and get a degree in it. If you wish to, that's online or whatever it is in herbal studies or naturopathy studies. Go fulfill upon that mission in your life, even if you're retired or you have another career, because that's a beautiful thing to do for yourself. Now, the 11th category has to do with societal causes and often end up in leadership of governance. But in this society, few sees ever win an election because it's so demonic in order to let the big demons win. Seeds are never big demons, unfortunately, for each of you. And so we'll say nothing else about it. But then the leadership position can extend in other directions too, in your life where you lead your family or you choose to go do something interesting and lead others, like coaching children or lead the community in some way that there's a project and they need volunteers or a paid for position of sponsoring something. It can unfold in that direction but sometimes there's a deep feeling of disappointment when that kind of truth doesn't get to be expressed in full in some kind of governance position in the society. If that's true, then bless yourself and say, we were born on the wrong planet, and forgive it and go do something else you really want to do, okay? The 12th position is one of national leadership. That's very hard to even imagine in this day and age because that position would be an almost outlawed in this kind of society. As a seed, you're a foreigner on this planet, and if you aspire to be a president or a prime minister, it just can really never come to be in that category of existence. And so we explain to you that truths sometimes dovetail, and if those last two turn out to be a truth that you think you might be, perhaps there's another category of truth that you would realign into naturally. So we'll speak to that some because those two truths are really hard to express in this particular kind of world, of this particular kind of society, and it would be better to gravitate to one of the first 10 truths and go in another direction. If you felt your calling was to be a major leadership of some sort, that can cause you to do other things where you may lead a department or you may lead others in another way that's in small clusters or small formulations that then work for you. So the leadership can still express itself, but not in this big parade of what could be if it was a seed society. People that are gifted at that kind of leadership are often popular because you express something that people want to hear. So in whatever career you choose, you're going to be popular because you're naturally expressing things that others want to hear. And then you can let any career in any direction flourish in a way that's natural into who you are in one of those two categories of truth. So sit with it for a moment and see which aligns with you, and will work with your foundry to put in a position and a key that you can motion into your existential truth at least once a week. It probably will be a day off, maybe on the weekend, when you do something delightful for yourself, and suddenly you find yourself in your existential truth, and you feel in that what it is you might need to do in your life if it's different from what you're already doing or attempting or growing in yourself. And existential truth is a very beautiful cause and effect too. As you go into it, it starts to align the cause to affect the life to be more aligned in your truth. And if you're facing a life change of some sort, it will help align that life change to be more in the centrifugal force of your truth rather than just to change for change's sake. That's very beautiful to do, to move to the right region, or find the right job, or find the right friendship, or the right associations that you're really in need of, to find the things that you really glow and grow in. And that's all part of what an existential truth of you should foster in this life of yours. There are many things we wish to say about existential truth. This isn't a storytelling type of webinar. It's very much who you are in you, to understand you about the truth that you have. And if it is your truth to be in a certain direction, and you recognize that you understand it deep within your body, then there may be a need to go do something about it in this life of yours. That's what we would advise you to do, whatever that may mean to you. If it's a career change you're facing, then perhaps you go re-educate yourself in a new direction. If it's something else you're facing, then maybe you move in another direction that works better with your purposeful truth. Because if it aligns, it comes together easier in your dream stream than when it doesn't. We'll explain it from a standpoint of words. Like you have a word that spins around you, and you go to work in it every day, and you live in it every day, and you play in it with others, and you go here and there to find who it is that you are within this world. And that word, when it aligns to your existential truth, draws a different dream to you day to day, because it's more purposeful as it dreams with others who are in the centrifugal force of you. You're a play of one or a story of one, and you're on stage in you. And when you have the centrifugal force of your existential truth around you, the dream aligns with others easier to be a reflection of your truth. That's nice when people validate your truth somehow in the world that you live within. People don't validate in this society, and some of you may have grown up with parents that never told you you're beautiful, told you you're talented, or told you to go find the world is your oyster and get out there and go do what you really want to do, and we'll support you all the way. Hey, hey, hey. Did any of you have family like that? Perhaps one parent might have been more loving and encouraging, while the other parent invalidated you to make you small so they can be okay with who they are in this life that they don't really care for. People who invalidate generally are in some sort of internal misery in themselves. They don't know how to encourage or push people to take charge of who they are, where they're going, and push people or their family or whoever they know in a direction that's positive. And they're wounded to an extreme. So we would like you to forgive your parent or both parents if they were invalidating, and understand that they were the walking wounded because they couldn't be anything else. One initiate had a miserable childhood because her mother was invalidating, and somehow she couldn't heal of her sick programming to be unhappy or dissatisfied with most everything that she had in life, even though there was enough money and she had a beautiful house with many things. Inside, she was in turmoil and unhappy with her life. So nothing in life makes you joyful, regardless of how beautiful it seems on the outside, and that's a very sad place to speak to. Seeds don't necessarily play that role, but sometimes you can attract friends or family or someone else that's disturbed that way. And you want to heal them and fix them and help them grow better. Sometimes they can and sometimes they can't. And that's very sad if they can't grow better through time. You can't fix anybody on the inside ever. So if it's a mirror, bless it and forgive it, and see where you're disgruntled about, whatever you created that you don't feel is enough for you, or good enough for you, or you want something else in this life so far to date. You're not happy with how it turned out, or whatever it is you're experiencing, and forgive the mirror. Now, programming brings in mirrors of things that can be subtle, unconscious, or subconscious patterns that you don't recognize as who you are. We're going to explain how that works. So you're walking through a park and a bike nearly hits you. You step back going, man, they weren't watching where they're going. Then you would say, well, what program do I have operating that say I'm not watching where I'm going and I could get hit or injured by something? And then take out that programming. So life is a mirror like that. And as you're observant and you release the programming, then you don't need to experience the full-on bike hitting you, say, in that experience. But that's only one of a myriad of things that can happen to you that grow to be a mirror of who you are. You get a nasty call from your mother, and she's complaining about her life, and she's complaining about everything. You don't know what to say to her, and you hang up on her, or whatever it is, and you can't seem to calm her down. What part of you has some programming around that you need to discharge or release? And if you clear it and you grow to harmony, then maybe you can call her back and make peace and help her a little bit. Same with anybody that's disgruntled. What is it in you that attracted that mirror of your own programming that you don't know about? Is there somewhere down deep inside about something that you can't really fully recall, about something else that happened in your life, and you don't have to remember all of it, just the invocation that I'm going to release this programming is enough? But the memories may flood in later in the night, or when you have time to meditate, once you release something, because suddenly you're back at age 5 and remember something weird that happened, and your mother yelling at you at that time just in that same manner because she was upset about something else. You will forgive that too. Forgiveness is a potent release of any reality that isn't working for you. So when you have anything out there in the mirror that's negative, or you don't feel good about, or isn't well with you, then work on it in you. First, let it go in you, and then the mirror changes. People can rearrange in huge ways you can't even imagine. There was one instance where this couple requested a consultation by email from Asur'Ana. The guy wanted to kill his wife. They had been married only perhaps a year. I mean, he literally wanted to throw her off the balcony. And Asur'Ana took that mirror very seriously and thought to herself, well, what part of me is really disturbed? And she forgave it overnight, infused him the next day, and calmed him down. And oddly enough, I think there were 2 infusions over a month, and she helped him with his abdominal disturbances. But the 2 of them suddenly sparked up their love again. And they went off to Florida in love with each other again, because whatever it was that was disturbing him shifted too through the infusion and the understanding of the need to maybe be there for her in another way that he wasn't. Whatever it is, these things can happen even for those of you that are healers, as you can draw people in that are very disturbed, that are still a mirror of something in you that you need to forgive. And when you do, if they can forgive, their life can change in a pivot point redirection, in a gallant way that might be very, very amazing. And so we tell you about that because sometimes life can be very disturbing. If you see homeless people, forgive it in you. Wherever you are, if you see disturbed people, forgive it in you. If you create a disturbing encounter, it's a mirror of you, and take responsibilities for you rather than blaming that individual for whatever you think they're doing that's wrong for you. Because you wouldn't have a reaction at all if you didn't have a program in you that was a problem. In existential truth, you're in balance and you're not in any programming. So we're going to speak to you about a state of being that's outside of the programming of you. Because the programming drives you into happiness or sadness or whatever emotional issue you have. Judgment, negativity, positivity, whatever it is. And that's the way society works at large. They're always in a program, and you can disengage from all programs. I'm going to have you do that now. Disengage from all programs and let go of whatever it is that has been disturbing you perhaps this last week, and see what it feels like to stand here program-free. Because there is a place and a time for freedom, and you will find that you feel most free when you're outside of any centrifugal program that's either positive or negative or somewhere in between. That may sound very strange because even the positive programming still can have a trap. Usually, you enter a positive program maybe to foster your journey, but then sure enough, you're going to end up in a real negative one in counterbalance because of the way polarity works. So you're positive and you're happy and it's a positive program, but the next thing you know, you're in a negative program, wondering what's going on in me, or what's going on with this person that seems to be so negative with me. So what's going on here that I don't feel well with? When you disengage from all programming, suddenly it's neutral. And you can get better at making that a circumstance that you will yourself to disengage from all programming. Now, if you can't forgive something, there's another way to discharge somebody who may be all emotionally upset about something that you're engaging with in some way. That exacerbates their pattern. As you disengage, they may have a chance to be more neutral. Asur'Ana is very gifted at that with Per. She would just disengage and then he would release whatever it was that was going on. To a point, they never argued. They talk and flow wonderfully through their lives. They just don't argue. So disengaging of programming can also neutralize people in this society if they're in some form of internal disharmony within themselves that engages with you. Standing program-free is a very beautiful place to kind of assess yourself, like, who are you really in this experience of life as an existential human? Who are you really program-free, given that programming drives almost everything in this society? If you're still watching the TV, you get programmed every time you turn it on. So give it up and go do something else. Music is better. It doesn't tend to program you at all. So perhaps you get used to listening to music around the house rather than having the TV on, because it really isn't good for you in your mind either. It can flatline you and make you very drowsy, and then you go to sleep. It flatlines the cortex in a way that it can actually get disheveled at this time. If you have children, I don't recommend having the television in a house ever if you want to preserve their light wave mind. That's kind of hard because in our society it's also media driven, and it's not about the size of the television. It's just what it does to the cortex, especially if there a seed or ceiling can flatline it so much that they don't develop properly and lose their language skills, or lose their enthusiasm, or lose their portability for causing the life to align the way that they would really like to. That can be true for big movie theaters too. There's been the odd occasion pair was guided to a movie, and he hasn't gone since because it does something else to him that he really had to deal with in light. And he had a few days of very disturbing dreaming, and so he didn't do that again after last year. So be careful with the media because it does things in light that you don't understand, not just to your field but also to your cortex. It can make it bleed after a time, and if it starts to clog, the cortex can have problems growing new synapses or recovery from it. So be careful with the media. If you like to go online, be careful there too, because in the media blitz of shopping, it's very much that way. It can flatline you. So be careful because you're precious, and you're to honor you and honor your children if they're seized, and honor the things that you know are right and true for you, or for them, or for everything. Then it's much more enjoyable to maybe have a creative project to do with your spare time. Learn to knit, learn to sew, learn to paint, learn to do something that expresses something else about you that may be intriguing to you, or go study something that you've always wanted to know more about in this life of yours. Even if you can't redirect it to totally to be in that career life, we would encourage you to do that, because that's for that internal sense of I'm in my truth, I'm in my existential truth, stems from is when you go and do the things that you really like to do in this life of yours. And I can't express it more than that because there's so many avenues of things available today due to the media system of webinars or online classes or things like that, that you could go study something you couldn't before in a forum online that perhaps you couldn't do at another time, that those sort of resources weren't available. So you can make use of the media in a positive way to let you focus on something that aligns with your existential truth, and don't focus on anything else and be better. Now, we're going to speak about the causes of an existential truth. What are causes? Causes are agreements with Dao and Tao, that you're with Dao or with Tao as you go into an existential truth always, and you exit with them when they desire you to, because sometimes the body can only handle it for a short interim of maybe a half an hour or an hour. You're there and you get that feeling of that flow of existential, purposeful meaning to who you are in your truth. And then they say, well, we have to disengage you because it takes a certain level of motion, and that's as much as you can hold at this given time of your transfusion. But in that half hour or hour, however long you're there, you realign the dreams for the next week to be more in the truth of you in your existential mission of growing into who you are. So be mindful that you can't stay there forever because the field has to last in a particular manner to hold an existential truth whirlspin around you. It's a whirlspin because the truth is always about who you are in the world. The existential truth is who are you in the world. The world could still be at home if you're raising family, or you're in partnership, or you love cooking or some other creative project. That's still the world of you. But it's also who are you with others in your work or your play or your focus is each day, and the direction that you're choosing for in your life. We're not going to say a whole lot more about that, except that it's really beautiful to align your life each week to be a reflection of your existential truth. That's probably best fostered in a meditation, perhaps every Sunday in the afternoon or outside or wherever you're going in that beautiful day where you're maybe off work. And if you work on weekends, it could be another day. It doesn't really matter. But it usually will align for 7 days only, so you kind of in your mind say, okay, today is Sunday or Monday or Tuesday, and I should realign my existential truth and go into a meditation perhaps on my walk. You can do this while you're out walking or riding a bike even, or sitting at a cafe having a coffee by yourself and say, okay, it's time to realign my truth dreaming for this week to be purposeful to who I am within. There's an accord in the heart that is related. So your heart is the space where A, you observe your male and female within, and B, you realign your truth for the dreaming of your existence this next 7 days cycle. Now, in the male and female side are two different focuses of aligning your dreams into your truth. The male holds the foundry in place so that the truth of you is the expression of your assemblage points this next week. So you have 7 days of assemblage point changes that your inner male aligns for any given week of dreaming in your existential truth. and your female aligns the dreams to hold care space. So she's the one that tries to bring you a friend to talk to, or something beautiful to grow into, or something beautiful to do that makes you feel wonderful in any given week. The two works in tandem in existential truth, and if you have too much of your inner male or female missing, it's very hard to enter the world of an existential truth, okay? So if you see a big part of your female missing because when you look within, she's small next to a very tall male, or you see your female big and large next to a very small male, it's a sign you've got some work to do retrieving these parts of yourself to time in order to balance them out to be even in size. So you can enter an existential world and realign your dreams this way. That's just programming that causes your inner male to fade if he's smaller, or your inner female to not be there if she's smaller. As you release the programming as to why they're not the same size, power and strength of force, then it will eventually emerge to be that way in your life too, that you have a full scope of expressing your truth from both the feminine side of holding compassion and love and forgiveness, and the male side of languaging it in a way that you can express it to others, so that they understand your position, or understand your life, or understand who you are in this world of you. So having a balanced male and female is really important to the expression of truth on all levels, because truth isn't whole if it doesn't have emotions and only words, or doesn't have words and a load of emotions. Some seeds are very emotional and can't express themselves, and some are very mental and expressed well, but don't feel. In retrieving your inner female, you learn to feel again, and in retrieving your inner male, you learn to speak again in a different oscillation or a different way than maybe you ever have before. It's a long story about Asur'Ana and her emergence as a spiritual teacher, because she was a very shy person with an inner female and no male at all. And as she worked and worked and worked over nearly 10 to 12 years of her own inner process, the female and male grew even in her, and then she could give birth to herself in her psychic work, her written work, DAS, lightweight synergy, and bringing all on all those things. So this is a process, but in light it is much quicker. In sound it was a slower process. Light may cause the time frame to shrink to about half, so it might have taken her in like 5 to 6 years to repair herself rather than 10 to 12. And so be aware of that, because as you go to clear something, there can be a vacancy inside that feels odd, and in light, as you feel with light, that vacancy may heal easier, and in it is an opportunity to feel with the right rays that make you feel whole. We'll tell you which rays to work with if you're deprogramming heavily and need to feel yourself. lavender is a good ray. So you would focus on filling yourself with lavender because lavender is transformative and it triggers the programming to release easier out of the molecular structure. The other one is ice blue, which detoxes the molecular structure of something that may be catching in between due to the release of programming chains of cause and effect. The other one is ice green, which calms the nervous system down and calms the molecules down so they can synergize again and say, well, we don't need that programming thread any longer to be okay or be charged or whatever it is. It's best in that order, that first to apply the lavender perhaps for a half an hour, and then you apply the ice blue for a half an hour, and then you apply the ice green for a half an hour. We'll work with you today at the end of this webinar because you're releasing many things that have to do with your inner male and female, what's strong and what's not strong in this verbal article of ours. The purpose of it too is to grow whole in everything you do or say or speak or be. And we love you for that as Dao and Tao, that you're willing to do this work in the physical, because often it becomes a backdrop that people just assume that they'll be okay and release their things without focus. That's true in many sea societies too, is they don't really focus on their internal awareness or realization. They just go about their dance and allow the change to sort of surface as they sleep at night. In this time period, it's better to focus on it consciously and lucidly in the physical because there's a lot of things that happen when you dream at night that don't really forgive. Forgiveness is pivotal, and most of you forgive easily in the physical, but maybe not in your unconscious psychoses. So forgive it physically, release the programming physically, let go and integrate what's wise and new about your truth and about everything that we speak to, and your life is going to grow and change in perhaps amazing new directions in the next 5 years or less. The time is now to do what you really want with this life, if you can, because we don't know how long this planet has if it heads into nuclear war. So the time is now to do what you really want. If you want to find a partner, then cause your male and female inside to grow loving towards one another, and then see which shows up in the single pages of yourself. If it is to find a new job, there's something else that you can work on there too, which is abundance theory of lack. That's a problem for some C's, is they always have this abundance theory issue, and we'll explain it to you from a standpoint of giving and receiving and what it is that happens in a non-C society. Non-C society has peg holes for people that don't do well financially. They don't have the right training or the right degree or the right something to do what would be wonderful for them. Sometimes seeds get pegged in that for a time. Often, if you reverse, you may change careers and go and get something else. An associate of ours did that when he went from managing the family printing business and customer service to real estate. So he changed positions, and that worked for him. And financially, that was better, and there was a lot more free time. So you can change positions to grow from one direction to another in C systems by reversing yourself out of the current position that you're in. So if you're in a position of non-abundance, you have to reverse into a position of abundance. If you're in a position of non-partnership and you want partnership, you have to reverse into a position of partnership. If you're in a position of wanting change, say a move, you have to reverse your position to allow the move to come forward. And that's how seeds work always, as you reverse where you are now into where you want to be. Reversals are common in all seeds. Sometimes you reverse the whole life and take flight in a new direction, which is what happened when Asur'Ana reversed her whole life, gave closure to everything, and went off to move to Hawaii and have a whole new life. Then 18 years later, she reversed her whole life again to relocate to Norway to be with Per. Per also reversed his whole life and gave closure to everything so that he could be together with Asur'Ana to fulfill upon their shared ascension and spiritual missions together. So whatever it is, if you don't like where you are or whatever it is that's going on, then reverse. Now, when you reverse, and here's the statement of truth, all the programming related to why you can't go where you want to go or do what you want to do shows up at once, okay? And what Asur'Ana used to do is kind of stretch it on a timeline and say, okay, over the next 30 days, I'm going to release these however many programs there were. That's an obstruction to who I am and where I'm going and what I want to do. So do that now. If there's some major something you've got to change, let all the programming come up, but don't let it sink you. Put it on a timeline and say, okay, we're going to release this over the next 30 days. Then make sure to get some exercise, because as you run or swim or bike or walk or dance around the house, not yoga as much, but if you get momentum going through the blood and the lymph, you will discharge your program in triple speed. So It speeds up the whole process of discharge and integration if you get some exercise every day. Given how you're choosing to transform yourself at this time, I would advise that very much that you try to get a walk and a swim. If you can't do that, just put beautiful music on and dance around the house for a half hour. Make yourself happy and let your programming go, and let something new syncopate into you that takes you in another direction that maybe you never thought you wanted to achieve before. Don't be afraid of it if it's not for today. As you keep releasing the programming that gets in your way, sooner or later it becomes obvious what you need to do, and you run off and do it. And be beautiful in that you can achieve this in this time period as a star seed. Your life is meant to be lived to the fullest, and every existential truth has a fullness dream stream that says you're going to do this or this or this. You're going to experience all these worlds within worlds that perhaps you wouldn't have if you didn't dream to your fullest. And that can include travel, that could include all kinds of things that you're not expecting when you let your world be full. But in order for you to have a full world, you have to let go of the programming that negates a full world in any capacity that is negated. And existential truth says there's no such thing as a non-full world. That's a delusion. That's a wobble. That's a lie. And yet we all live it, don't we? In our own ways, we all live it. You can't even begin to say what that means at any time of your life if you never experienced a full world in the first place. So if you never experienced it, how do you know what's missing? Because the whole delimited factor of this kind of society says you can't have that and this, or something that would bring deep fulfillment into who you are. Maybe it started with your mother or father who said you shouldn't have that career, you need to go in this direction, need to do that, this or that, or this or that. You usually end up with the career your grandparents wanted. So you get to be an engineer because your grandfather always wanted to be an engineer. And he couldn't do that because he was a mailman or whatever he was in his time period. And so you go off to college and you grow to be an engineer because it was his dream projected forward into you because you're his offspring, next generation. And that's how this society works. So a lot of people end up in a lot of careers they really dislike because they go forward and be what their grandparents wanted them to be rather than who they are. So in that programming is your grandparents' dream stream for who you become. That's a big one, isn't it? So whatever you've done, career you've had, whatever you're doing is probably a grandparent dream unless you reversed your life in full. Most seeds reverse in their 40s So if you're in your 50s, perhaps you've become clean of your grandparent programming or direction for the career of this life. If you haven't, you can choose to deprogram that and say, I really want to do something else that's really more centrically my truth. Maybe you're gifted at whatever your grandparent wanted to dream. Perhaps you're a gifted counselor, or perhaps you're a gifted salesperson, or a gifted engineer, gifted at whatever you're doing. Maybe you are a gifted accountant, but it's not your truth. And so, as you let go of the programming that says you have to live your grandparents' life, then you can begin to reshape your future in a new direction. We invite you to intend to do that today, and if you like what you're doing in your career, then don't worry about it. If you want to do something else, then go educate yourself to go do it, or find a means of doing it, and don't give up on doing what's really true for you ever, because that's the whole point of a star seed inclination always, is that you live your truth and you foster your truth and you expand your truth and you expand it in new directions. Usually there's 8 directions of truth, so we'll go through these and you can see where you're limited, all right? There's the truth of living in a beautiful place or beautiful palace that's designed just for you. There's the truth of being in a family circumstance or with a circle of friends that care for you. There's the truth of deep care of who you are and where you're headed, and that calls people to you to perhaps be a surrogate parent or someone who encourages you to go forward in your mission of life. There is the truth of being present in what you do and enjoying what you create or manifest. There's the truth of physical movement and swimming or playing in the woods, or all those things people like to do as they dance or sway together. Then there's the truth of the dance party that's part of any seed system, because humans like to sing and sway and be together as one. And that's what usually the dance hall circumstance causes, is they swing and sway and try to be as one as they listen to the music and dance through the theater worlds of themselves. Then there's the truth of the marketplace, where you trade and barter your gifts and talents with others. That's less so here unless you're part of a farmers market movement, which is sad. And they're here in this time period. Maybe different stalls trade for this and that, but most people give them money instead. So there isn't that sharing of, I create the soap and you create the scarf and let's trade. It's sad that way in many ways, because money is an obstacle of care in the marketplace today. Truth of jurisdiction for any seed is the role of the beloved, and that can include having a child or not, depending on your life focus, but that there is a purposeful mission and finding the beloved and caring for them in a way that's very unique. That could include a child in this society where you have a child that's a beloved of your heart, but perhaps not the beloved partner. If you get both, the beloved partner and the child of your heart, then you're very lucky, and please bless yourselves for it, because that's very, very unusual in today's world. Oh my God. To a few other things. So that's the 8 areas, and you can kind of examine in that, like, where are you missing or lacking something, and maybe that's where you need to deprogram, where you're lacking in something, and allow it to shift so you call it to yourself easily. See? There's this sense of trying to will life push, push, push. I'm going to go get that job. And that's not how dreaming works. Dreaming just flows when the field is free and clear to receive it. And the negative programming basically forces the dream that you're looking for to go somewhere else. So if you're dreaming for that beloved and you meet all these jerks online or wherever it is, it's like something about it is not there for you in ease. Then take out the programming until the right person shows up that negates that possibility of a loving female and male to be in your life. Same is true for friendship. Take that programming out that doesn't allow the sense of soul family to show up to dance within your life. And the same with something else we're going to talk about, including creative endeavors. What do you want to learn? What do you want to go participate in that would enhance your world? Do you want to learn pottery making or silk painting, or learn some kind of dance that you can go faster to stretch your body and make it beautiful? What is it that you want to do that makes your life wonderful rather than negative and non-beautiful for you to live? And that is a purposeful mission in the truth of any seed that you're here to dance and play and make your little world beautiful with the ones that you know and the ones that you care for, and the things you focus on, and all those other things you would like to be real. The sad thing in this society is often paid work where you really don't enjoy what you're doing much at all. And yet you have to, and you make do either sitting in front of a computer or doing whatever you do. Now, if there's something else you can do that earns the same money, then please go do that. Go get education to take you in a direction that makes you feel whole and joyful and still pays the rent or the mortgage or wherever you have bonded yourself to. Houses are bonds, and if you own one, it's usually not a bond of the heart. Bond, and so sometimes that's easier on star seas. So if you don't own a house, don't feel bad about it, because sometimes That's actually easier on the body, mind, and spirit. If you do own a house, bless it and make it the centrifugal force of your habitat of love, and make it a loving environment, and then it will serve you. Don't try to own 2 homes if you don't need to, because the second house turns into something else that can be equally strife-filled in the long haul in light wave motion. Now Per and Asur'Ana have 2 homes, one in Alta, Norway, and one in Gold Canyon Mesa. This is necessary for their global world service contract, and so is allowed. In Atlantis, everything was free. You had housing and food and basic swimming and basic everything, basic clothing, and that was all provided for, including public transport and free shampoo and many things we would all wish for if we could live in that kind of society. Because in light, when it's free, people don't bond to substances, okay? You know what happens to these people in the grocery store. They bond to their toothpaste, they bond to their grocery store purchases. Oh, I need to have that brand of cereal because I'm bonded to it in light. And that's a very weird thing for this society to do. If you find yourself bonding to things because you think you need them, including your furnishings or clothes or anything else, please unbond now. It is an anal bond, and it comes from ownership in light. It's a very weird thing to witness, and if you're bonded to your house through your anus because you own it, let it go, and let the programming go that bonds you to things. It's an odd society where people bond to things and loving one another, and they think when they go to the grocery store, somehow they're fulfilled, or they go to Macy's in the US, or H&M in Norway, or one of the big malls, SM, or whatever those things are all over the world, that somehow they're whole. That's a huge delusion, and it's hard on the light wave children because they really need care space. Shopping for something with grandma and going out for ice cream doesn't replace heart space for young light wave mind children. And that's very, very painful for them, although the intention is good on the part of grandmother. Now, if grandmother loves, the child is probably luckier. They have an open heart and can bond through their chest system. And so we're going to say 3 things about all of this. That love is the centrifugal force of your truth. So if you love where you live and what you're doing and who you're with, you're a milestone ahead of your life focus and truth. If one of those 3 categories is out of alignment, but you love the people you're near, then you're better. If you can love your career, that's good. And if not, find some focus that makes you feel loving of what you focus upon, in this life of yours, and learn to love yourself first as a centrifugal force of your own inner male-female dance. You are a male and a female inside yourself, and the truth is you don't really need a partner if you're whole. So if you feel you need a partner, need friends, need, it's a huge sign you got some inner male and female work to work on. It's kind of an odd thing, but if you need, then you're going to cause somebody to come into your life that needs. So you born out of need rather than love and wholeness. If you're whole within or are the medicine woman and medicine man of yourself, you call somebody else to you that's more whole in themselves and less needy. Perhaps that's a better partnership to try to cause than others that are all founded on emptiness. In this society, there's a huge need to bond and marry and maybe even have a child because of need. So the woman has a child under her own need to be loved back, and the father may enjoy that too, but perhaps not. So sometimes men bond with kids and sometimes they don't. If you're going to raise a family, make sure you cause a man that can bond to the kids or is very empty for them with their other parent. And so it's very much a need-based society, and it gets even more complex as you get light motion as the need surface, and people can grow to be very addictive to what they need, whether it's food or movies or how they go out and dance and party or even do drugs or whatever that is going on. Need can be at an all-time high when light motion is on, and that's true for you too. You may suddenly be very much aware of what you need and try to figure it out and try to find a way to give it to yourself if you can. And that's the centrifugal force of truth of you in a play of one. You that makes you feel more beautiful, more in your truth, more aware and more loving of your circumstance, and be in love with you. When you're in love with you and you're seeking partnership, the partner will flow to you very easy. If you're needy, it will flow, but it may not be the right person. So we say that too because as seeds, if you grow into the balanced male and female side of you, you will attract somebody else that's balanced in their male and female, and then in that, you're less likely to call somebody who's either usurious or abusive. Other aspect of whatever they express, that's a beautiful thing for you to work on inside of yourself and understand that it's all within you and not about anything else out there. When you're whole in here, you will attract dreams that reflect that wholeness, and a partner that reflects that wholeness, if that's what you're seeking. Or you rearrange your life to have new friends or more loving experiences with your children, or whatever it is that you have going on that somehow reflects the place of yourself to be whole. There's also a need often to nurture yourself, and as you take the time to do so every week, you'll be better overall. It's easy to get stretched in time with work and family and many things that may go on. So make sure to give yourself some time alone to be with you and nurture you and understand yourself each week, and periodically try to take yourself on holiday, maybe even by yourself for a day or two, to get away from the rudimentary rut and gut of work and home and family life and whatever else you have going on. In doing that, you will begin to see what you need to cause and effect to grow in new directions that fulfill you in the wholeness truth of you in an existential cause of your birth. When you were born, you had a clause that said, I would grow into my existential truth, and many found that had been faltered away somehow, and perhaps the programming from your grandparents or your parents that said you had to go in this direction and not necessarily another direction that you would really like to live. That is very, very sad. When you've gone in a direction you really don't want to live and wind up middle-aged looking back at time and saying, geez, why didn't I do that then? Well, don't worry about that. I don't care how old you are. You go do what you need to do now. There's certainly adult education of all avenues of everything in this society, whether it's through community colleges or online studies for you to go in a direction that really serves and allows you to learn something that fulfills you in your heart and mind. And we would encourage you to do so if you realize that one of the 10 categories of your truth doesn't really align with what you've tried to do in this life of yours. Whatever it is, we invite you to be beautiful and learn to sing a new song in you of your existential truth cause. Now, an existential truth cause has a song that spins in the world of you every other day. It spins for maybe 45 minutes and it says, there is the song of my heart, of my truth, of an existential purpose that aligns with what my biology needs to do or foster or dream. See, truth is founded on your genetic oscillations and nothing else. So when you're out of your truth and doing something that doesn't feel right, your genetics may not feel well or don't renew or revive as much as they could. If you were doing something that felt purposeful or wonderful in this life of yours. So it's very important to realign your truth with what your biology needs to do and focus in that direction, because then you'll be healthier through time. So health is a fundamental love. And when you love what you do, you love where you're living, you love who you're with, you love yourself better. And in the love, the body renews and flourishes. That's obvious, perhaps, with those that you've known that are older, going into their disease system out of years of marriage that they really didn't care for, or years of work that they really hated. And all these things we know are true in this society of ours. The last generation in particular had a hard time changing much of anything in anything they did, because they didn't believe in themselves enough maybe to do so. This generation has wide avenues of things, community colleges, education systems, and career change education, and so on, that can make a new direction available to many. An affiliate of ours has had these merry maids, house cleaners come in once a month, and there was a young woman who's very beautiful, and she just graduated from an IT program. Work in IT that will pay a lot more, being a lot less strenuous on her very slim and tiny lightweight body. And this affiliate thought, well, good for you. You're one of those that goes and does it. And she has 3 children and a spouse that she tries to take care of in between everything else. Now, if she can do it, so can we as star seeds. She's not a seed, but see, this generation of people wanted possibility, and so they invented it in their own system of existence to grow into another world where many avenues of change are always available to everyone willing to hop aboard and choose for schooling. Schooling changes the foundry, it changes the assemblage point, it changes the dream stream, and it changes the job opportunities. And so if you're in a quandary about what to do next, re-educate yourself in some way, and then allow that dream to carry you forward in a new direction that makes you, your body, your mind, and your spirit happier day to day. And there's everything available. The only thing that gets in the way of any kind of change is you and your programming that negates it. So as you take away the programming that negates a career change in a re-education program, eventually you work your way out to where you can say, okay, I need to go do that. As I do that, then I'll fundamentally change my foundry a little bit to orient myself to that new career, and then find the dream that works within it in an alignment of myself to a new direction in this life of mine. Same with partnership. You need to deprogram yourself of what negates you having a loving partner until it suddenly can show up and flourish and make you feel beautiful in this life of yours. There are other things too. Sometimes there are family or people that disgruntle you, bosses, and those that just don't seem to align very well with you. It still triggers programming you can choose to discharge. And as you do so, you will find yourself more in peace with everything, and it may discharge the negativity straight out of them, so that they relate to you differently day to day if you have to see them every day. So never underestimate your own ability to change. As you change, the mere outside of you changes, even sometimes with the most difficult circumstance, because you choose to transform you, and as you choose to transform you, dreams align differently and can carry you forward in a whole new direction you never thought possible, perhaps ever. We blessed you with that kind of future, that kind of possibility to understand yourself enough to let go of what stands in the way of those things you'd really like to try on or accomplish or motion forward within your own life that makes you happier, brings you more joy, causes you to wonder and feel enthusiastic again. Maybe how you felt at age 13 or 14 or 18 when you thought the whole world was ahead of you and nothing was impossible. You can restore that state and then motion on and go do what you really love in this life of yours, always as the star seed of you. And that's your true existential truth, alright? We're going to wrap this up now because this is about all we have to say. We'd like you to take one last deep breath and then close your eyes when we're through. Commune with your Tao and allow the lavender and then pale blue and pale green rays to fill your body for the next hour and a half to help you discharge the programming triggered. Don't forget to put it on a timeline if it's too much to release in any given day. Be well with you and a new tomorrow that will flourish in the love of the star seed of you. Namaste.